Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. I'm still in my 2018 setup. I'm not back in the studio yet. Things are a little bit hectic. I will be back there soon though. I'm sure you can forgive me. I've got tons of questions for you. Some really good ones today. Really looking forward to getting into those. I'll get to them in just a minute, but if you do enjoy this video, if you enjoy the content that I put out, whether it's Kendo Rant, whether it's the analysis type videos, I put one out earlier this week. We looked at the Korean 7th Dan Championships. There's some really good matches there, for example. Or if you like the instructional videos that we put out, the translation videos we put out, all for free, and you want to support us, you want to keep us going, then don't forget to do your shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar.com, of course, my website. It's fantastic, amazing Kendo equipment. Of course, I would say that, so don't take my word for it. Take a look at our Trustpilot rating. That's an independent reviews aggregate, by the way, and we have an outstanding score on there. We're by far the highest rated Kendo shop on the internet, so get down to KendoStar.com and do some shopping there. We'll be back in the dojo soon if you're not already, so make sure you're prepared. And the other way you can support us as well is we've got a Teespring store. There should be something underneath this video, but you can basically get some Kendo themed t-shirts. They're novelty really, but it's just a way you can sort of give us a helping hand and get a little bit of something in return, really. And I think they just started doing face masks too. I'm not sure if you can use them in Kendo together with the sort of shields and stuff like that. I haven't tried that yet, but for everyday use, I think they could be pretty cool. So check those out as well. So with that being said, let's get into these questions. Okay, number one, what's the difference between Nafuda and Zekken? So the Zekken or the Nafuda or the Tada name is the cotton bag that goes on the front of the boga. It looks like this. Oof. Okay, so it's these sort of these name bags really that go on the tare. Yeah, they go on the tare. It usually says your dojo, where you're representing at the top, your name in Japanese, and then your name across the bottom. Well, there's different designs, and there's loads of different types. This is a popular one. This is the Clarino type one. This is an embroidered type one, and then we have the Fuchinui type one as well, which is like, can you see how it's embroidered and it's the synthetic leather? It's pretty cool. So that's what we're talking about. They're all the same thing. They all serve the same purpose. Nafuda is the technically correct, strict Japanese language word for it, but it's probably the least popular one as well. Nafuda literally means name tag or name badge, and it's usually like associated, at least for me, which is probably why I can't get used to using it, with like the nursery kids. They usually wear one. They call that a Nafuda. Or like if you work in a supermarket or in a restaurant or something, you wear a Nafuda. That sort of thing. I can't think of, it is, for me, that's the kind of thing that comes to mind. I don't think of this as a Nafuda. Well, that's technically the correct word. The popular word outside of Japan seems to be Zekken, which is this, which is a word that's sometimes used for them as well. Actually, in Japan, it's not such a common term for them, but that comes from a German word. I don't speak German, but I believe the word is Decken or something like that. Excuse the pronunciation. But it's basically like a kind of name tag thing. They use the word Zekken in Japan more for things like a marathon runner that might wear like an apron with their name on, or the what do you call it? The athletes that have that paper thing with their number and name on. They usually call that Zekken. The most common name for this in Japan is Tare name. Yeah, Tare name. That's what nearly everybody calls it. But the All Japan Kendo Federation doesn't really like that because it's not the correct term. They're trying to get away from using terminology that makes Kendo sound like sports. And they feel that Tare name makes it feel like that. They feel that Zekken is the wrong word as well, again, because it's used in other sports. So they prefer us to use the word Nafuda. But I can't get used to it, so I usually just call it Tare name or Zekken. The other words like that. There's other words. They don't like us using the word court. They want us to say shiaijo. They don't like us to use the word tasuki for the ribbon. They'd rather us use the word mejirishi. And the other one is bogu. They don't actually like the word bogu. They prefer us to use the word kendogu. But everyone calls it bogu. Everyone calls it bogu. And the reason for that is because bogu, it just means armor or protective equipment. And like if you do taekwondo or karate or even boxing, that sort of equipment, that's also called bogu. So they want to try and distance it from kendo, from those sort of sports. Okay? But basically, Nafuda and Zekken are the same thing, just different words for the same object. Next question. What's involved with Shogo exams for Renshi and stuff? So there's a few questions about this. And I think it's because I put on my Facebook and I posted in the early access group. Was it yesterday, day before yesterday? That I actually received the notification from the All Japan Kendo Federation that I received my Denshi, which is the first of the Shogo. Now, what the Shogo are is they're a separate like ranking system, a sort of award system that go alongside the Dan grades. So after you get 6th Dan, you can be awarded Denshi, okay? And after 7th Dan, you can be awarded Kyoshi, and then after 8th Dan, you can be awarded Hanshi. So Hanshi 8th Dan is the highest possible rank you can achieve in Kendo at the moment. They basically are there to represent basically they're awarded to for demonstrating, shall we say, that you understand Kendo philosophy and that you are an active participant in I guess the enrichment of Kendo as a whole, and you're not just doing Kendo just by yourself. So there's things you have to do. You have to prove that. You have to send a CV showing what sort of things you're involved with. You have to write a written test and all that sort of thing. So that's in terms of what's involved the actual exam. It depends on the exam itself. I understand that Hanshi, I believe, is basically nominated and then awarded. I don't think there's a test for Hanshi. I could be wrong. But for Renshi and Kyoshi, I believe the situation is you fill out the paperwork, you provide a resume or a CV or a history of your sort of Kendo achievements and contributions. It's probably a better word. And there's an essay that has to be submitted, or a thesis, shall we say. Next one. I've been enjoying the Zero to Shodan series, which led me to this serious question. Who would win the Shiai between you or Mrs. KendoStar? So if you've seen the Kendo Zero to Shodan series, the latest few episodes do indeed star my wonderful wife. And yeah, she would definitely beat me in the Shiai. Right, next one. Dojo etiquette. In the past, I saw different dojos putting the dojo etiquette on their website so that beginners can familiarize themselves with it. I think there's too much ins and outs to make people learn it before even stepping foot in the dojo. But there are some rudimentaries I think it's necessary for people to be aware of, so they don't, for example, walk into the dojo wearing shoes or cluelessly wander into the practice area. It's definitely a thing people can learn at home and not in the dojo in a huge part. What's your opinion on that? Yeah, I mean, I think it is a good idea probably for clubs to put something like that on. But, I wouldn't fret over it either. Everyone walks into Kendo not really knowing that sort of stuff. And I think it's perfectly forgivable for that to happen. If someone's first day, they walk into the dojo with shoes on, that's fine. You don't have to cast them out. The idea of not wearing shoes in a dojo is an inherently culturally Japanese thing. So it's not something that happens in Japan because people take the shoes off when they enter a building. So we don't do that here. All right, we don't do that here. So it's, we're not gonna. We don't have to like be that strict over it on the first day. You just, as soon as they come in, I'm not saying you let them practice with the shoes on, but if they walk in with the shoes on, you say, oh, sorry, just so you know, we take our shoes off at the door, we leave them here or whatever, or we bring them in. And when you come in, you bow like this, whatever, and explain that way. The other great thing is there's some great resources out there. I think there's a YouTube channel that puts loads of free content out there covering like beginnings for Kendo, like the basics. You could maybe like embed those videos on your website so they could watch them before coming along. Just a thought. Anyway, next question. Did you ever attend the Kitamoto International Training Camp? What do I think about it? I haven't ever been to the Kitamoto Training Camp. That's because whilst you're not allowed to go to it if you live in Japan, you have to be outside of Japan to do it. This year, I was selected for it. I actually you have to be selected as well to go. You apply and then you're selected. I was indeed selected to go for it this year, and unfortunately was cancelled, obviously due to the pandemic. So unfortunately, I haven't been to it yet. I'm very much looking forward to going to it. I'm sure I'll get the chance to go to it again. So yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. Beginner's question: what are the Renshi, Kyoshi, and Hanshi? If someone ranks up from 6th Dan Renshi to 7th Dan, do they lose the title? And what do you need to do to acquire the title? So we already talked a little bit about what they were, the Shogo titles. To acquire the titles, I already said that as well, right? And essentially, when you become 6th Dan, and then you get Renshi, if you then become 7th Dan, you keep Renshi. It runs parallel. So you become Renshi 7th Dan, okay? Now, here's another thing. The Shogo titles come before the Dan grade, okay? So you are Renshi Rokudan or Renshi 6th Dan. You're not 6th Dan Renshi or Rokudan Renshi. It's Renshi Rokudan, okay? Not that that was in the question, but it's just one of those things that sort of chaps my apple. Right, next one. Here's one. I'm new to Kendo and I'm going through 0 to Shodan with a friend. And I was wondering if being taller is beneficial or a burden. The reason I'm asking is because I'm 6'10", and my do strikes seem to be my weakest strike. Any advice would be appreciated. Right, everybody at your stage finds that their do strikes are the weakest strikes. Don't worry about that. It's nothing to do with your height. Do is really hard. Don't worry about it. You don't really need to start thinking about hitting do until you're like 3rd Dan anyway. In terms of being whether height, being tall is beneficial or a burden, it's beneficial. I wish I was taller. I really wish I was taller. It would be a lot. It'd be great. It doesn't mean that it'd be, you're at a massive disadvantage if you're short. There's some amazing Kendokai in the world who are not as tall as I am, and I'm not very tall. It doesn't mean that at all. But being tall would be a great advantage. At least I feel like it would. So yeah. You should be fine. And next one, following the 0 to Shodan series, I'd like to see more ranks explored. Sandan to Yondan Shinsta, for example. Yeah, that's, obviously I'd like to do that. It depends how, over the next coming months, the 0 to Shodan series does. It's a bit different though, you see, once you get past Shodan. The idea of 0 to Shodan is like, it's easy to do as a series because it's very much a technical based curriculum, right? And then from Shodan to Sandan, you just have to get better at that stuff that I taught you in Shodan. Up to Shodan. You just have to get better at it. And then once you can do it to a good level, you'll get Sandan. And then stuff between Sandan and Yondan, you'll learn more about that from watching my analysis videos rather than me turning around and giving you a video teaching you waza and stuff like that. Because you have to start to understand things like seme and sen, datotsu no kikai, the opportunity for striking, and stuff like that, as well as having a slightly higher technical level. So I'm not sure, like the Sandan to Yondan, 3rd Dan to 4th Dan jump, is well suited to a video series like Zero to Shodan, and even like Nidan and Sandan. Like I say, that the format of Zero to Shodan, I'm not sure fits for those because the curriculum is actually the same. You could pass Sandan with the content of Zero to Shodan if you can do it to a higher standard. It's not like you need extra waza. Next one. This pick's from the original guide for Kendo instruction. Awesome book, thanks. When I did Kendo when I was younger, the white gi on the right is a type of gi I had and I in fact still have. So the picture is a gi something like this one. My question is, simply, is there a difference? Should you wear one in specific situations or are they just variations? Thanks so much. Love the show. Thank you very much. So yeah, the kendogi that you're talking about is called a Musashizashi kendogi, and it's named after a famous manga or comic book called Musashi no Ken. The character in that wears one. They're mainly for kids. I've never seen an adult in Japan wearing one. In the West, sometimes adults wear them, but I think that's because it's not as well known that they're really meant for kids. They're meant for kids because before, especially before the development of more modern materials for kendogi, stuff like we've got the Gaia, like the polyester ones you can just easily wash. Everyone had to use a cotton Aizomi kendogi, and for kids, like just for training, that can be a real pain for mums to look after, like to have to wash and stuff because you can't wash it in the washing machine. You have to hand wash it. It leaks on everything. So the white Musashizashi kendogi exists more. Came about more because it was easy for parents to look after for kids to wear. Between practice, if they're practicing 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm pretty sure the stitching came in, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the stitching came in to follow the kid in the book. Though this is unconfirmed, it's possible that the kid in the book was drawn after one of those kendogi, and they became known as the Musashizashi after the book. But I'm pretty sure they're called Musashizashi kendogi because of the manga Musashi no Ken. But yeah, they're very thin. They're all right for summer and stuff. But yeah, they do. They're like from a Japanese point of view, they're a kid's uniform. And yeah, that's the main difference. Next one, controlling distance for seme and opportunity. I've realized that moai is very important in seme and controlling the opponent. When I adjust and the opponent stands there, I'm in a good position to do anything. They're forced to be more reactive. But then I find some taller or shorter senpai and they control the distance. They then move forward or back to maintain their preferred distance when I try to adjust it. It makes me doubt my striking because I know my distance is too near or far when they're in their sweet spot. Needless to say, they get more strikes in. At best, I can deflect and turn, but not counter. How do we control the moai? Improve your footwork. That's how you control moai, is improving your footwork. If you make it so that you can control even just your the amount of distance you have, even by just this much, you'll be able to and respond immediately. Okay, if they're in their sweet spot, that's great. Come on then, attack me. Pam. Okay, if I'm ready to strike, yeah. Or pam, I can do the ojuwaza. If you don't have solid footwork though, that ain't gonna work. Yeah, so it's not a problem for me if my opponent is in a comfortable cutting distance for them. Yeah, because maybe that's where I want them to be. Maybe I want them to feel like they can freely attack me so that I can use the waza that I want to. So it's really about improving your footwork so that you're able to make a variety of waza from any situation, from any distance. Okay. Why do some kenshi keep their left hand a little off center? That's because actually it's particularly sort of old school way of thinking about it, but we tend to think about, let me grab a shinai here. We tend to think about having the shinai on the center line, yeah? But actually there's some senseis that teach about having this knuckle here on of your thumb on the center line, which brings actually the left hand slightly off center. And especially as when you're in kamae, it's wrong to have your shoulders perfectly square. Yeah, they shouldn't be in line with each other. The right one should be slightly in front. That's natural. Yeah, so that actually lends itself to that kind of kamae. So it's acceptable to do that, but don't start messing around or experimenting with that until you're like able to at least grasp the concept of Yuko Datotsu and Kentai no Ichi. Now, I don't know what level you're at asking this question, but I wouldn't start messing with concepts like that until you're at least 5th dan. But yeah, that's why, to be honest. Next one. Hello and congrats again. Thank you very much. This is more of a comment rather than a question. The last Kendo rant, you asked people to comment on their interest in you writing a book. I don't see much of a reply, so I wanted to give my opinion. Firstly, yes, this would be fantastic. We do have lots of instructional material out there. It might be nice to get something a little more personal, such as how your own particular journey has molded and shaped your Kendo over the years. As you've stated many times, the needs and experience of Westerners can be different from those growing up in Japan and elsewhere in Asia. Your personal insights, I think, will be very helpful in combination with instruction, of course. Just my opinion, because you asked. Cheers. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll keep thinking on this idea of writing a book. I do like that idea. I have, there's been lots of times when I've been somewhere, like at a seminar or something, or I've been with a group of people after practice, and we've been talking at the sort of dinner table in the evening. We've gone out for a meal, and I've been sort of reciting stories and stuff of things that have happened to me or things that I've experienced through my sort of Kendo journey, especially over in Japan. And lots of people have said to me, you need to put these down in a book because there's so many things that are really interesting that most of us would never get to experience. And I guess if I think about it, yeah, that's kind of true. So maybe if I did do a book, I could do even if it was just a section of it, that's like that. I know there was a book. Now, I'm not in any way comparing myself as a Kendoka to this person, but Miyazaki Masahiro put a book out years ago now, and the first half of the book was instructional, and then the second half of it was more of it wasn't so much a biography of Miyazaki Sensei, but it was like it was interviews with I think it with his rivals or something like that. I can't remember. I don't have the book anymore. I gave it away. But yeah, yeah, like that could be an interesting format. Next one. My question is, what does the player know what to do before entering the Kendo Shiai or training? Well, before training, you have to try and do your best. Try to apply yourself as much as you can and listen to the words of your teacher. Before entering the Shiai, just try to do the Shiai where you will leave without having any regrets and feeling that you've done your best, whether you win or lose. Don't feel like there was something that you left behind on the Shiaijo, something that you wish you'd done differently. Next one. I once have received a message from a Kendo equipment store saying that having the black memberchi would prohibit me from entering a tournament. Is it true? No, it's not true. What's your opinion on the black memberchi? Is it common in Japan? So no, it's not true that the black membership prohibits you entering a tournament. I did a video called I think it was 5 myths from Kendo, and that was one of them. The membership, by the way, is the hard rim around the men that attaches the main gun of the cage to the padding. It's usually painted in black and red on the inside, but you can have it black on both, so it's full black. Now, where does this myth come from? It comes from, in Japan, the Chu Taiden, that's the junior high school sports, like educational sports, like physical education, that's it, federation, doesn't allow them in their shiai, all right? So if you're a junior high school student in Japan, you're not allowed to wear the full black memberchi. There is no rule in the Kendo regulations or in the additional guidelines that state what color the memberchi has to be. All right, you do not have to have a black and red one to enter a tournament. So yeah, if a Kendo equipment store told you that, they don't know what they're talking about. They're probably confused with the ruling for the junior high school students. My opinion on the black memberchi, yeah, I think it looks kind of cool. Yeah, I quite like it. Is it common in Japan? No, not really. It's not super common in Japan. It's not totally unheard of, but most people in Japan don't think about having a different color for it. It's not as common as like having a different colored door, but it's, you know, I mean, I have seen it before. You know, when people see it, they usually say, "Oh, that looks cool. That looks cool." But it's rare that I've never heard of a Japanese person specifically asking for that. I'm sure it happens though. On another note, could you please talk about the differences between Kendo and Kumdo? Nope. For instance, is there any difference in scoring ippons? Yeah, there's a bit of a difference in scoring ippons. And I'm only kidding. I've already done a video about talking the differences between Kendo and Kumdo. There are some differences. They're more alike than they are different. There's good reasons for the differences that exist. And yeah, there's some difference in scoring ippons, but not so vastly different that they can't compete with each other in tournaments like the World Championships. That's probably about as far as I'd like to talk about that. Next one. Hello, Andy and community members. This is the last one. Shiai, in my opinion, is a small part in one's Kendo development. Right, well, we disagree there. However, it seems to be the main focus for many Kendoka, where all they do is train to do Shiai. It appears that this competitive nature brings to supersede everything else. I've heard cases of where some very skilled Kendoka who win championships and represent their country at WKCs feel that they are better than or have more authority than senior Kendoka, even those who are higher down than they are. I feel this is wrong and disrespectful, yet the practice continues. What's your opinion on this? Okay, so first off, my opinion is Shiai is not a small part of your Kendo development. It's massive. It's like you could split Kendo into 3.5 parts. Does that work? I don't think so. But there's 3 main pillars and a smaller pillar. And someone's going to get mad at lots of you are going to get mad at me for the smaller pillar because the smaller pillar is kata. And then the bigger pillars are keiko, practice, shiai, and shinsa. Okay, shinsa is the grading. You have to do all 4 of those, yeah, including the kata. But the kata is not as important to layer. It's not. And they're all important for the development of Kendo, and they're all very important. Look, Shiai is the closest thing we have in Kendo to a real sword fight. It's the closest thing we have to Shinken Shoba, to the feeling of life and death, the fact that everything rests on a single strike. And that is super, super important. It's the only place we get direct feedback, honest, objective feedback on the quality of our Kendo. So it's super important that it's participated in. The point of Shiai isn't to win. The point of Shiai is to test yourself. Okay, that's what it's called, Shiai. The shi from Shiai is tamesu. You might have heard of tameshikiri for iaido, where they do the test cutting. Tamesu means to test. The shi from Shiai means to test, and I is together. So it's super important, but it's not about just winning. Having said that, the next sentence you put, it says main focus for many Kendoka is all they do is train for Shiai. That is a fact of Kendo around the world. 90% of Kendoka in the world, maybe not 90, 70% of Kendoka in the world train Kendo just to win Shiai. That's because the kids, all right? The kids in Japan, that's all they do and all they know, and that's fine, all right? That's fine, because they'll start to learn the more important aspects of Kendo, the deeper aspects of Kendo, as they start to grow into adults. And if they don't, they won't become successful. If they do start to understand those deeper concepts and what Kendo is really about, they're the ones that really go on to perform very, very well. Now, there's nothing wrong with the competitive nature. It's vitally important in a competitive activity like Kendo. Now, in terms of this is very interesting. I like this next sentence you've put. You've heard of cases where some very skilled kendoka who win championships and represent their countries at WKCs. Now, I've noticed you've said not people who've won the WKCs, right? But they win championships, and I'm assuming you mean in their own countries, because I guarantee you, these people you're talking about, these skilled kendoka who think that they're somehow better or more important or more authoritative than the senior people with the higher dan grade, I don't think that they come from places like Japan or Korea, and probably not even like the USA, from my experience with the people from the teams in those countries. You know, that ain't how it works. And the really good players don't do that. They don't act like that. I don't know of anybody that also acts like that in other countries that I would consider very skilled. And you know, in European countries, in my experience, the people that I know well, who are very, very good players, they don't disrespect the senior kendoka like that. And if you do, if you're like playing for a national team, like a, I don't know, like a whatever national team that may be, and you're like, you know, winning some championship in your country, and you think you're better than a nanadan or an eighth dan, you don't know what you're talking about, frankly, just because you win some shiai. And this is gonna be, you're not gonna like the sound of this, right? I'm talking of as somebody that's won national championships in my own country and in other countries. Like, those levels of tournaments are tiny. There's tiny, minuscule little shiai compared to just a local shiai in Japan. Like, winning those means nothing. It means nothing. It means you're nobody. You're just a big fish in a tiny little puddle. So don't get yourself, you know, above your station thinking that. And that's, I'll be honest with you, you know, when I was younger and I was in that position, I didn't understand that until I went over to Japan, and I realized that, like, I couldn't even, you know, I was winning tournaments here in Europe that I thought were big tournaments, and then I couldn't even like win a match in my own dojo in Japan's like friendly internal shiai, like, or just the weekend local shiai. It's really important that, you know, if you're one of those players that this person's talking about, that just because you play in the World Championships, and you won a tournament in your country, it doesn't mean that you're like, you're suddenly better than the people that are higher grades than you. Just because you do jigeko with them and you can hit their bogu, right, doesn't mean that you're better than they are. Right? That isn't how it works. That's not how Kendo works either. So yeah, you're missing the point if that's you. I guess that's all I'd say on that, to be honest, before it turns into a really long rant. Right, brilliant. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to support the show by shopping at KendoStar. And you can check out the Teespring store. And also, I heard a rumor that if you press the subscribe and the bell button, there's a bell there. Like, if you press that, apparently it makes you better at Kendo. So give that a try. All right, see you all next time. Bye-bye.